Imagine this. You're sitting alone under the night sky. Everything is quiet, still. The stars look endless, and for a moment you feel small, yet deeply connected. And somewhere inside, that question rises, who made all this? It's not a question of science or religion in that moment. It's just a whisper from your heart, asking why anything exists at all. We all feel that sometimes, don't we? Maybe when someone we love is gone. Maybe when life feels too heavy. Or when it feels so beautiful we can't explain why. We want to know there's a reason, a creator, someone watching over us. And it's okay to want that. It's part of being human. Before we go deeper, if you find peace in gentle reflections like this, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. It's a small thing, but it helps us stay connected, sharing these quiet moments together. Now, let's breathe for a second. You see, since we were little, we've been taught that everything comes from somewhere. A house has a builder, a book has an author, a song has a singer. So, when we look at something as vast as the universe, it feels natural to ask, who built this? Our minds are wired to see purpose, to feel there must be someone behind everything. It's like an old instinct in us. If the grass moves, it must be the wind or maybe an animal. That survival sense is what helped us stay alive. And maybe now that same instinct makes us look at galaxies and wonder who placed them there. But there's another way to see it. The Buddha once told a story about a god named Brahma who believed he was the eternal creator of the world. He thought everything began with him. Then one day, the Buddha appeared and quietly reminded him that even gods live within the flow of time and change. They rise and fall, just like everything else. It wasn't a story about power. It was a story about perspective. Maybe, just maybe, the universe doesn't need a single hand to shape it. Maybe it's always been this dance of causes and conditions, like waves rising and falling on an endless ocean. You know, I used to ask that question too. Who made all this? Especially when life didn't make sense. But as I got older, I started noticing something. When I was busy searching for the one answer out there, I was missing the beauty right in front of me. The sound of the rain, the smile of a friend, the warmth of a cup of tea when you really need it. Maybe that's where meaning hides, not in the grand answers, but in the quiet, ordinary moments that make us feel alive. The Buddha once said that questions like, who created the universe, can be like an arrow wound. Imagine someone shot you with a poisoned arrow, and instead of taking it out, you start asking, who made this arrow? What kind of wood is it? What's the color of its feathers? While you're still asking, the poison is spreading. His point was simple. Some questions don't heal us. They only distract us from what really matters, understanding why we suffer, and how we can be free from it. And maybe freedom doesn't come from knowing who made the stars. Maybe it comes from realizing that you and the stars are part of the same story. You're not outside of it, wondering why it exists. You're inside it, breathing, feeling, changing. Just like the stars, you came from causes, from choices, from moments before you. The universe doesn't need a beginning to be beautiful. It just is. And so are you. So if you ever found yourself sitting there, lost in that question, who made this world? Why am I here? Just know it's okay not to have the answer. Maybe the purpose isn't to know, but to experience. To live it fully, kindly, and awake. Because maybe the real meaning isn't given to us from above. Maybe we create it breath by breath, moment by moment. And if this speaks to you, if it touches something soft inside, stay with me. Subscribe, not for numbers, but so we can keep walking this quiet path together, exploring questions that don't always need answers, finding peace in the spaces between them. Because sometimes the most beautiful truths aren't the ones we figure out. They're the ones we simply feel. There's something tender about realizing that the universe doesn't owe us answers. At first, it can feel unsettling, like standing on the edge of a vast ocean with no map. But after a while, when you stop fighting that uncertainty, it becomes peaceful. You start to see that not knowing doesn't mean being lost. It can actually mean being free. Free to simply exist, to breathe, to feel the gentle rhythm of life without forcing it to fit a story. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he spoke of awakening. Not waking up to an answer, but waking up from a need for one. We humans love stories, though. We want beginnings and endings, heroes and creators. It makes things easier to hold. But the truth, as the Buddha saw it, is more like a circle. No clear start, no final stop. Everything arises because something else allows it to. A seed becomes a tree because of the soil, the sunlight, the rain. And that tree, when it falls, becomes soil for another seed. It's not about someone making it happen. It's about everything quietly leaning on everything else. The world, in this view, is like a web, delicate, connected, alive. And maybe that's the miracle we've been overlooking. Not that some great being designed every detail, but that all of this somehow keeps unfolding perfectly on its own. The stars explode so new ones can form. Rivers dry up so clouds can carry their water elsewhere. Even our own hearts break so they can open wider than before. It's not chaos, it's balance. A balance that doesn't need control to exist. When you see life this way, you stop feeling so separate from it. You stop needing to name a creator, because suddenly you realize you're part of creation itself. You're not a visitor here. You're a thread in this endless fabric. Every breath you take, every word you speak, every act of kindness or anger ripples through that web. The universe isn't something happening to you. It's something happening with you. And that changes everything. It means your life matters. Not because someone wrote it into a grand plan, but because your choices help shape the flow of it all. When you're kind, you add warmth to the world. When you're patient, you create space for peace. When you forgive, even yourself, you ease a tension that echoes through others. That's creation. 2, a quiet, human kind of creation that happens moment by moment. So maybe instead of asking, who made the universe, we can ask, how am I adding to it? How am I part of this great unfolding? The question shifts from why to how, and suddenly, life feels less like a riddle to solve and more like a song to join in. You don't need to know who started the melody. You just need to keep singing your verse with honesty. It's okay to still wonder, though. Wonder is beautiful. It keeps the heart open. The trick is not to let the need for answers steal the peace that's already here. You don't have to figure it all out tonight. You don't have to label the mystery. Just breathe in, breathe out, and remember that even without a creator, you are surrounded by creation. You are part of it, made of it, inseparable from it. And maybe when we stop searching for the hands that built the universe, we can finally feel the heartbeat of the universe inside our own chest. Steady, quiet, alive. If this way of seeing the world touches you, if it helps you slow down and feel a little lighter, take a second to subscribe. Not for the algorithm, not for the numbers, but so we can keep sharing this space, a place for gentle thoughts, slow breaths, and simple truths. Because maybe the universe doesn't need a creator. Maybe it just needs us to be awake, to be kind, and to keep wondering. There's a quiet power in letting go of the need to know everything. When we stop chasing answers, something inside us softens. We begin to see that life doesn't have to be understood to be beautiful. Think about it. When you stand by the ocean, you don't demand to know where every wave comes from. You just watch them rise and fall over and over, and somehow that's enough. Maybe that's how the universe wants us to see it too, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as something to be experienced moment by moment, without needing to control or explain it. When the Buddha talked about existence, he didn't focus on who created it, but on how we live within it. He pointed to the roots of our suffering, craving, clinging, ignorance, and showed that peace comes when we see clearly, not when we find all the answers, but when we stop being lost in questions that only make us suffer more. Sometimes we get caught thinking, if I just knew where everything came from, I'd finally feel okay. But maybe peace isn't waiting at the end of a question. Maybe it's already right here, in the space between your breaths, in the silence that follows your thoughts. There's something beautiful about not having to explain everything. When you look at a flower, you don't have to understand the chemistry of photosynthesis to feel its beauty. You just look and it moves you. Life's the same way. Maybe the universe doesn't need us to understand it. It just needs us to see it, really see it, with open eyes and a soft heart. And when we do that, even the smallest things start to glow. A leaf falling, the sound of rain, the way sunlight slips through the curtains in the morning. Suddenly, existence itself feels sacred, even without a name behind it. And maybe that's what awakening is, not finding new information, but realizing what's always been here. We spend so much of our lives chasing meaning, thinking it's somewhere out there, hidden in some grand truth. But maybe meaning isn't found. Maybe it's felt. It's in the way we love, the way we listen, the way we sit quietly with someone who's hurting. It's in our presence. When we live gently, when we treat this world with care, we become part of something holy, not because we worship it, but because we honor it. There's a story that says when the Buddha reached enlightenment, he simply looked at the morning star and smiled. He didn't shout or preach or try to explain. He just saw the world exactly as it was, complete, alive, enough. Maybe that's the heart of it all. The universe doesn't need a beginning to have meaning. It doesn't need a creator to be sacred. It just needs to be seen with love. And you're part of that same miracle. The fact that you can feel wonder, that you can love, that you can ask questions like, why do we exist? That's the universe waking up to itself through you. Maybe you're not separate from creation at all. Maybe you are creation, breathing, thinking, wondering. And when you realize that, the need for answers fades. You no longer stand outside of life, asking where it began. You're inside it, part of the endless unfolding. So, tonight, if you find yourself staring at the sky, wondering if anyone made it all, it's okay to wonder. It's okay not to know. Just let that mystery be your companion, not your burden. Let it remind you that not everything has to make sense to be real. Some things are meant to be felt, not solved. And if you'd like to keep walking with me through thoughts like these, slow, honest, and gentle, subscribe to the channel. Not because it's what people say at the end, but because this space is for you. A place to breathe, to remember, and to see that even without answers, life can still feel whole. Maybe that's the secret, not knowing, but still loving it all anyway. There's a quiet shift that happens when we stop needing the universe to have a reason. It's almost like exhaling after holding your breath for too long. You realize that maybe everything doesn't need a purpose written in the stars. Maybe its purpose is simply to be, to exist, to move, to change. When you stop demanding explanations from life, life starts to open up. The sunsets feel deeper. The wind sounds softer. Even the silence between words starts to feel alive. And in that stillness, you begin to sense something the Buddha was pointing to, That peace isn't found in the answers, but in the space that appears when the questions fade. We spend so much time trying to figure out why. Why this life? Why this pain? Why me? But sometimes the why keeps us trapped in circles of thought, and we forget to actually live. The Buddha didn't say not to think. He said to see clearly. And maybe seeing clearly means realizing that some questions only exist because of how we look at the world. We ask who created everything because we think in terms of beginnings and endings. But what if there are none? What if everything just flows like a river that has no starting point? Just rain turning into streams, streams into rivers, rivers into clouds again, forever. And maybe that's the beauty of it. No creator, no design, just harmony. Just this vast, mysterious balance where everything supports everything else. The light exists because of the dark, birth because of death, joy because of sorrow. When we fight against this rhythm, we suffer. But when we start to move with it, even the hardest moments begin to soften. Maybe that's what enlightenment really is, not escaping life, but understanding it deeply enough to finally let it be what it is. You might be thinking, but if there's no creator, doesn't that make life meaningless? I used to wonder that too, but then I realized the absence of a creator doesn't take meaning away. It gives it back to us. If no one wrote the story, then we're free to write it ourselves. Every moment becomes a chance to choose how we show up, to be kind, to forgive, to listen, to love. And those choices, they're not small. They're the heartbeat of the universe moving through us. There's a quiet dignity in that kind of freedom. You stop waiting for life to explain itself. You stop asking the sky to speak. Instead, you start listening, really listening to what's already here, the sound of your breath, the laughter of someone you love, the rustle of leaves outside your window. These small things, they're not just background noise. They're life whispering, this is it. You're already part of everything you've been searching for. So maybe the question isn't who made the universe, but am I awake to it right now? Because when you really see it, when you feel it, every ordinary moment becomes extraordinary. The act of washing a cup, the warmth of sunlight on your hands, even a tear sliding down your face. All of it is sacred when you stop trying to explain it. And maybe that's the message hidden in all this. The universe doesn't need to be understood. It needs to be loved. You don't have to be certain to be at peace. You just have to be present, right here, right now, breathing in, breathing out, alive. If you're still here with me, still listening, maybe you feel that too, that soft space inside where words stop and silence begins. Stay with that. And if these moments speak to something in you, take a second to subscribe, not for the numbers, but because this space is for souls who want to slow down and listen, who are okay with mystery, who don't need every answer, who just want to walk through this life with open eyes and an open heart, because maybe that's all the universe ever wanted, for us to be awake enough to see that we were never separate from it in the first place. There's something gentle that happens when you stop asking the universe to prove itself. You begin to feel its presence in quieter ways, not in thunder or miracles, but in the steady pulse of everyday life. The sun rising, the air moving through trees, your own heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of something so much bigger than you. When we stop shouting questions into the sky, we finally hear the whisper that's been there all along. You're already home. You don't need to find a creator, because creation is happening through you in every breath you take. I think sometimes we look for meaning because we're scared of emptiness. We want to believe there's someone out there pulling the strings, keeping everything in order, promising that all this chaos means something. But when you really sit with stillness, when you stop trying to fill the silence, you realize that emptiness isn't cold. It's not lonely. It's vast, calm, and full of possibility. The Buddha called it sunyata, but you don't need the word. You just need to feel it. That quiet space where everything belongs and nothing is missing. Maybe that's what the universe really is. Not a thing to be understood, but a silence we're meant to return to. And maybe this silence doesn't mean nothing. Maybe it's the source of everything, like the space between notes in a song. Without it, the music wouldn't exist. Without stillness, there would be no movement. Without emptiness, no form. You and I, the stars, the trees, we're all part of that rhythm, rising and falling out of the same still space. There's no need for a maker when the making never ends. You see, the Buddha didn't try to answer whether the universe had a beginning. He cared more about how we live while we're here. Because whether it started with Creator or simply always was, the truth remains the same. We suffer, we love, we lose, we hope, and we keep searching for peace. And that peace doesn't come from the stars. It comes from within. It's found in the way we meet the moment, right now, with awareness and compassion. And maybe that's what makes life so tender. It's not that it lasts forever or that it follows some perfect plan. It's that it happens at all. Think about it. Out of all the infinite possibilities, somehow, here you are, breathing, thinking, feeling. The universe, through 1,000 small causes, became you. That's not an accident. That's wonder in its purest form. So maybe instead of asking who made the universe, we could ask, how can I live fully in the one that already exists? How can I bring gentleness where there's noise? How can I bring kindness where there's pain? Because maybe the universe doesn't need worship. Maybe it just needs participation. It needs us to live like we belong here. And we do. You know, there's a kind of peace that doesn't shout. It doesn't come from knowing everything or being certain about anything. It comes from sitting quietly with the mystery, with your hands open, saying, it's okay. I don't need to know. I just want to be here for it. When you live like that, every moment becomes holy, not because someone declared it so, but because you did. So if this way of seeing the world brings you even a little bit of calm, stay. Let's keep exploring this together. Subscribe if you haven't, not because I'm asking for attention, but because this space is meant for those who want to live more gently, more awake, more at peace with not knowing. Because maybe in the end, the greatest truth isn't that someone created the universe. It's that we are lucky enough to be here, witnessing unfold one quiet breath at a time. There comes a moment, usually in the middle of some quiet night, when the questions fade, and you're left with just the stillness. No theories, no beliefs, just you, breathing in the dark, feeling the soft weight of existence. And maybe that's when it finally makes sense, not as an answer, but as a feeling. You start to understand that the universe doesn't owe you a reason. It's not trying to convince you of anything. It just is. And somehow that's enough. The stars don't need a purpose to shine, and you don't need one to be worthy of your place among them. When you stop searching for the one who made it all, you begin to see what's been right in front of you. The beauty isn't in who created the world. It's in the fact that it exists at all, that you exist within it. Think of how incredible that is. You're made of the same particles that once burned in stars billions of years ago. The universe didn't just happen around you. It became you. Every breath you take is proof that creation is still happening, still moving, still alive. You're not a visitor in this cosmic story. You're part of its ongoing sentence. The Buddha often spoke about interconnection, that nothing stands alone. Nothing is born out of nothing. Everything we see is the result of countless things before it, like a wave in the ocean. It rises, it falls, but it's never separate from the water itself. You and I, our joys and our sorrows, are like that too. We rise and fall out of the great sea of life. And when we finally understand that, even a little, we start to relax into it. We stop clinging so tightly to the idea of control, and we start to trust the flow. And maybe that's what peace really is. Not certainty, not perfection, but trust. Trust that even in our confusion, there's still beauty. Trust that even when we don't understand why, we can still choose kindness. Trust that the same force that turns darkness into dawn will carry us through our hardest moments too. Because just like the stars, we don't need a reason to shine. We just need to keep showing up quietly, gently, honestly. Sometimes people worry that believing there's no creator makes life less meaningful. But I think it does the opposite. If no one handed us a script, then every act of love, every small mercy, every moment of forgiveness becomes a choice, our own creation. We become the artists of our lives. And isn't that beautiful? The universe gives us a blank page every morning, and we get to decide what to write. And maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he said, "You are the maker of your world." Not that we control everything, but that how we see, how we act, how we love, that's how we shape our little corner of the universe. You don't need to fix the whole thing. You just need to live with enough awareness to leave a little more peace than you found. So tonight, if your mind starts spinning with questions, who made this? Why am I here? Just smile a little. Let the thoughts come and go like passing clouds. The truth isn't hiding in some faraway heaven. It's right here in this moment, in this breath, in the quiet understanding that life doesn't have to make sense to be sacred. And if that thought feels gentle to you, if it brings a kind of calm that words can't touch, stay with it. Stay with me. Subscribe so we can keep sharing these still spaces together. Not because we're trying to escape the world, but because we're learning how to truly be in it. With open hearts, soft voices, and a little bit of wonder left for the mystery that keeps us all alive. You know, sometimes I think the Buddha wasn't trying to explain the universe at all. He was trying to help us wake up inside it. When he spoke about karma, about how everything moves and changes through cause and effect, he wasn't describing some cosmic scoreboard. He was describing the rhythm of life itself, how every thought, every word, every action becomes a ripple that touches everything else. It's like tossing a pebble into a still pond. You don't see where the ripples end, but you know they keep moving long after the stone disappears. Maybe that's what the universe really is, a vast sea of ripples, each one connected, each one shaping the other. There's no one pulling the strings, no great architect sitting outside of it all. Instead, everything keeps creating everything else. The sun warms the earth grows the trees give us breath, and we give it back. It's not a hierarchy, it's a dance, a quiet, endless exchange that keeps unfolding breath by breath. And if you listen closely, really listen, you can feel that rhythm inside you. The same pattern that turns galaxies is turning your heartbeat. You're not separate from it. You are it. When you speak with kindness, you set new ripples in motion. When you choose anger, those waves carry outward too. The universe doesn't punish or reward. It simply responds. Like an echo returning your own sound. There's something deeply comforting in that, isn't there? That we're not trapped by fate, but gently shaped by our choices. That every day we have another chance to create a softer wave, to bring a little light into someone's storm. Karma isn't about fear, it's about connection. It reminds us that nothing we do is lost. Every gesture, every smile, Every moment of compassion lingers in the fabric of the world. Once, I met an old monk in Thailand who said something I'll never forget. He told me, if you want to know your past, look at your body. If you want to know your future, look at your mind. At first, I didn't really get it. But over time, I began to see what he meant. Everything we are right now, our habits, our reactions, our joys, our pain, is a result of countless moments before. And everything we will become starts right here, with the thoughts we feed today. So if you feel stuck, if life feels heavy, maybe it's not about escaping your circumstances. Maybe it's about noticing what kind of energy you're sending into the world. Because that's what comes back. You can't plant anger and expect peace. You can't plant fear and expect love. But when you plant awareness, when you pause, breathe, and choose gentleness, something begins to change. Slowly, quietly, but deeply. The Buddha saw this truth not through books or theories, but through silence, through sitting still long enough to see the pattern behind everything. He saw that the universe isn't ruled by God or chance, but by the natural flow of causes and conditions. Everything we see, from the stars and the sky to the thoughts in our heads, arises because of something else. And in that realization, he found freedom. So maybe the question isn't who made the universe, but what am I creating right now? What kind of world are we shaping with our minds, our words, our love? Maybe that's where the real meaning lies. Not in tracing back to a first cause, but in awakening to the miracle of being part of it all, right here, right now. And if this feels like something you've needed to hear, stay a while. Take a deep breath. Let's keep walking this quiet path together. Subscribe if you want to keep exploring these spaces of peace. Not because we're chasing answers, but because we're learning to live with questions. Gently, honestly, and with hearts that are just a little more open each day. There's a moment when you really sit still long enough, when everything just softens. The need to explain, to label, to prove, it all falls away. You realize the universe doesn't need a reason to exist any more than the ocean needs permission to make waves. It simply moves. And so do we. The Buddha often said that what we call the world is nothing more than this body, this mind, and the experiences that arise within them. The stars, the heavens, the endless galaxies, they're not out there somewhere. They're reflected right here in the space of our own awareness. When I think about that, I can't help but smile. Because maybe the real mystery isn't about the beginning of time or who set it all in motion. Maybe it's about how, in this very second, awareness itself is able to notice everything. The sound of the wind, the beat of your heart, the rise and fall of your breath. That's not nothing. That's life revealing itself, moment by moment. And when we're quiet enough to notice, it feels almost sacred. There's a story about a student who once asked his teacher, "Where's the divine?" The teacher pointed to a flower blooming in silence and said, "Right there." The student frowned and said, "But that's just a flower." And the teacher smiled and whispered, "Yes, that's the miracle." You see, when we stop looking for something grand or far away, we begin to see that everything, the laughter, the pain, the stillness, is already part of something infinite. Modern science, in its own way, touches that mystery too. Physicists talk about how matter is mostly empty space, how particles only exist through their relationships. The Buddha said something similar more than 2,000 years ago, that nothing stands alone, that everything depends on everything else. He called it sunyata, or emptiness. Not emptiness as in nothing matters, but emptiness as in everything is connected. When we see that, the world becomes softer. Our judgments fade. We begin to understand that just as no atom exists by itself, No person does either. I remember once sitting by the ocean, watching the waves roll in and out. For hours, I kept wondering where each wave began, which one was the first, which one would be the last. And then I laughed, because I realized there isn't a first wave or a last one. There's only the motion, the rising and falling that never stops. That's the same with life, isn't it? We keep trying to find where it all began, who made it all start. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is simply to ride the wave while we're here. The Buddha never said, don't ask questions. He just knew that some questions keep us trapped. They pull us away from living. Asking who made this might sound deep, but often keeps us in circles, while the real miracle, this breath, this moment, passes by unnoticed. So instead, he turned our gaze inward, asking not who made this, but what am I experiencing right now? That shift from the cosmic to the intimate changes everything. When we bring our attention back to the present, we see that the universe doesn't need a maker to be meaningful. Its meaning blooms in the act of awareness itself. It's in the warmth of sunlight touching your face. It's in the quiet love you feel when someone holds your hand. It's in the peace that comes when you stop needing to know and simply allow yourself to be. So if tonight you feel small under the vast sky, remember this. You are not beneath the stars. You are made of them. You are the same energy, the same light, the same wonder taking human form for a little while. And that's enough. You don't have to understand the entire universe to be part of its beauty. You just have to open your heart to it, one breath at a time. If this speaks to you, take a moment, breathe, reflect, and if you'd like to keep walking through these quiet reflections with me, go ahead and subscribe, not for answers, but for peace, not for more noise, but for a space to rest, to remember who you are, and to see, really see, that even without a creator, this life, this universe, is already whole. Sometimes, when the night feels too long and your thoughts get heavy, you might find yourself wondering, if there's no creator, then why are we here? Why does anything exist at all? It's a question that can keep you awake. Turning over in bed, staring at the ceiling as the silence grows louder. But maybe it's okay not to have that answer. Maybe the question itself is an invitation, not to figure out, but to feel it. You see, when we let go of the idea that someone had to design this life for it to matter, we start to see something more tender, more intimate. The beauty isn't in being made by someone. It's in the simple fact that we are. The rain doesn't fall because it was told to. The sun doesn't rise because it was commanded. It just happens, effortlessly, endlessly. And so do we. The more we try to find meaning somewhere far away, the more we overlook the quiet wonder already happening right here, right now. The Buddha never claimed to know how the universe began. He simply asked, are you aware of your suffering? Because that's where the real search begins. Not in the stars, but in the heart. The universe doesn't need to answer why it exists. It's already doing what it does best, existing. And we, in our small but beautiful way, get to witness it, to breathe it in, to be part of its rhythm. Maybe life isn't a puzzle meant to be solved, but a song meant to be heard. Some notes are joyful, some are haunting, and together they create the melody of being alive. When we stop chasing certainty, when we stop demanding explanations, something inside us relaxes. The world starts to feel softer, and we start to see it not as a riddle but as a companion, something that holds us gently, even in our confusion. There's a kind of peace in realizing that everything is just unfolding, not according to a plan, but according to its nature. Trees grow, rivers flow, hearts break and heal. And in that cycle, there's something profoundly sacred, even without a name for it. It's the kind of peace that comes not from knowing, but from trusting that you're part of something vast and kind, even if you can't describe it. When I sit quietly, sometimes I imagine the universe breathing with me. Every inhale, every exhale, a reminder that I belong here. And maybe you need to hear that too. You belong here. You don't have to earn it or explain it or justify your place in it. You're already part of the mystery, already made of the same light that fills the stars. So if tonight you find yourself searching for meaning, let yourself rest instead. Watch the moonlight spill across the floor. Listen to the wind brushing through the leaves. Feel your breath move in and out. That's the universe answering, not in words, but in presence. It's saying, I'm here, and so are you. If these words feel like a quiet place to rest your thoughts, I'd love for you to stay. Subscribe, share this space, and let's keep exploring together. Not to find all the answers, but to remember that even in the not knowing, there's beauty. Maybe that's the real reason the universe exists, so we could discover, even for a little while, how it feels to love, to breathe, and to simply be. Maybe in the end, the question isn't why does the universe exist, but why do we keep searching for a reason? We chase answers like we're afraid of silence, afraid that if we stop asking, life might lose its meaning. But what if meaning isn't something we have to find? What if it's something we create gently through the way we live, love, and see the world? When the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he didn't solve the mystery of creation. He simply woke up, not to some grand cosmic truth, but to the truth of the present moment, the sound of the wind, the weight of his breath, the quiet pulse of life moving through everything. Maybe enlightenment isn't about discovering who made the universe, but realizing that you are part of it, that the same light shining through the stars is the same light shining behind your eyes. And that changes everything. Because when you see yourself as part of the universe, not separate, not small, you start to live differently. You stop fighting so hard to control everything. You stop demanding life to make sense before you can love it. Instead, you let yourself fall into the mystery, trusting that even if you can't see the full picture, you're still held by it. Like a wave held by the ocean, always returning, never truly lost. Maybe that's what peace really is. Not an answer, not a conclusion, but a soft acceptance that we don't have to understand everything to feel a home here. That maybe the universe doesn't owe us an explanation because it's already giving us everything. The warmth of sunlight, the laughter of someone you love, the small joy of breathing in the cool morning air. Those are the moments that make existence worth it. So tonight, as you sit in the quiet, let yourself rest in that thought. You don't have to fix the world, or name the divine, or solve the mystery. You only have to notice, to feel the heartbeat of this moment, and realize that it's enough. You are enough. And if you walked this far with me, thank you. I hope these words give you a little peace, a little stillness in the middle of all the noise. If you like to keep walking together, through wonder, through reflection, through the beautiful confusion of being alive, you can subscribe to this channel, not for lessons or doctrines, but for moments like this, quiet, real, and human. Because in the end, maybe that's why the universe exists, so it could feel itself through us, through every breath, every thought, every act of kindness. And maybe that's all it ever needed to do.